All right, let's talk about India and Canada. For months now, this diplomatic firestorm has just been getting bigger and bigger. And look, this isn't just some regular political tiff, yar. We're talking about some seriously heavy stuff. Allegations of assassination, a huge clash over what sovereignty even means, and a conflict that honestly goes back decades. So today, we're going to break it all down.
Just listen to this phrase, a highly coordinated attack. Chilling, right? Well, that's a direct quote from a new documentary that has basically thrown a whole can of gasoline on the already raging fire between India and Canada. This has kicked a crisis that was already on the edge right back into the spotlight. And that's exactly why we need to figure out what is really going on here.
Okay, so here's the game plan for today. First, what sparked this whole thing again? Then, we'll dig into the real heart of the conflict. We'll map out who's who, look at the actual diplomatic and economic damage, and then, and this is the big one, we'll unpack the two totally different narratives coming from Delhi and Ottawa. And finally, we'll ask, where do we even go from here? Let's dive in.
All right, first up, how this whole crisis got reignited. I mean, this thing blew up last year, right? So why is it suddenly all over the news again? Well, the answer, believe it or not, comes down to one really impactful documentary.
So this wasn't just a rehash of old news. No way. This doc dropped a bombshell. It showed new security footage of the assassination of Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar, and it's the one that used that phrase, a highly coordinated attack. And India's reaction? Super quick. Reports say they tried to get the documentary blocked in Canada. This isn't the first time, by the way. And just like that, boom, the whole story is back in the public eye, and it's even got the US paying close attention again, especially because they're looking into a spookily similar plot on their own soil.
Okay, so that's the latest spark, but now we need to get to the core of the whole thing. If you really want to get what's going on, you've got to look past the headlines, past the documentary, and understand the three massive ideas that are clashing head-on here. We're talking sovereignty, separatism, and free speech.
So what is this crisis really about? Well, it all boils down to one single explosive allegation. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, literally stood up in his parliament and said he had reason to believe that agents of the Indian government were involved in killing a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil. I mean, just think about that. For any country, that is one of the most serious accusations you can possibly make. It's a direct shot at their sovereignty.
So the person who was killed, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was he? Well, you can't tell his story without talking about the Khalistan movement. This is a political movement that wants to create an independent Sikh state called Khalistan. Its roots go all the way back to the 1947 partition of India. Now, inside India, the movement has mostly fizzled out, but it does have support in parts of the Sikh diaspora, communities in places like Canada, the UK, and the US.
And this is where you see the fundamental clash. It's like two different worlds colliding. From India's point of view, any pro-Khalistan activity is a direct threat to its sovereignty, to its national security. They see it as extremism, and they've been telling Canada for years to crack down on it. But then you look at Canada's side. Their constitution guarantees freedom of expression. So for them, as long as someone is being peaceful and not breaking the law, holding a protest, for example, it's protected speech. It doesn't matter if another country gets offended. And that right there, that ideological gap has become almost impossible to bridge.
Okay, so who are the main characters in this whole geopolitical drama? Because let me tell you, it's not just about two prime ministers. Not at all. There's a whole web of governments, spy agencies, and specific people who are caught right in the middle of it.
Let's do a quick rundown. From India, you've got PM Modi's government, the Ministry of External Affairs, and of course, the intelligence agencies. From Canada, you have PM Trudeau's government and their famous national police, the RCMP, who are running the investigation. But wait, there's another big player, the United States. Why? Because U.S. law enforcement is investigating a really similar plot to kill another Sikh activist, Gurpratwant Singh Pannu, but this time in America. And then you have the individuals at the center of it all. Nijjar, the man who was murdered, Pannu, the guy targeted in the U.S., and Nikhil Gupta, an Indian national who the U.S. has charged in that plot. See, it's a very complicated web.
Okay, so this isn't just talk. It has had some serious real-world consequences. Let's get into the diplomatic and economic fallout. What's the actual damage been, from embassies to bank accounts?
Just look at how fast everything went downhill. June 2023, Nijjar is killed. Fast forward just 3 months to September, Trudeau makes his public accusation, and bam, diplomats start getting kicked out.
By November, the U.S. angle drops with the indictment in the Panoon case, which adds a whole new layer to this. And then, just this past May, the RCMP in Canada arrests 4 Indian nationals. The story just keeps getting hotter. It's been one thing after another, nonstop.
And the diplomatic fallout, man, it was swift and it was brutal. This wasn't just angry press releases. We're talking real action. Canada kicks out 6 Indian diplomats. India, without missing a beat, kicks out 6 Canadian diplomats. And then India takes it a step further. They temporarily suspended all visa services for Canadians. That's a huge deal. They said it was because of security threats. Ever since then, any kind of high-level meetings, forget about it. The relationship is basically in the freezer.
But now, here's where it gets kind of weird. You'd think with all this political drama, the money would stop flowing, right? Wrong. The trade between the two countries has been surprisingly stable. In fact, would you believe it actually went up a little bit to over 11 billion Canadian dollars this year. So it seems like even though the politics are completely broken, the economic ties are, well, pretty resilient, especially in areas like pharma, where India sends a massive amount of goods to Canada.
Okay, now we're getting to what I think is the most important part of this whole story. If you want to know why this is so hard to fix, you have to understand this. India and Canada are living in 2 completely different realities. They are seeing this whole thing through completely different eyes.
This table just lays it all out crystal clear. Let's just go down the list. The Nijjar allegations, India's like, nope, didn't happen, it's absurd, it's politically motivated. Canada's response, we have credible allegations and we're following the law. Okay, what about the Khalistan movement? India sees it as a major security threat, period. They want Canada to take action. Canada says, hey, freedom of speech, as long as it's legal, it's allowed. Now check out sovereignty, this is fascinating. Both sides are accusing the other of violating theirs. India says Canada's interfering by letting these anti-India groups operate. Canada says, excuse me, a foreign government plotting an assassination on our soil, that's the ultimate violation of sovereignty. And it's the same for everything else. The diplomatic actions, India calls it a necessary response, Canada calls it essential for their national security. The evidence, India's demanding, show us the proof, the smoking gun. And Canada's saying, we can't, it's sensitive intelligence, it's part of an ongoing legal case. It's like they are speaking 2 different languages.
So, after all that with this huge divide, what happens next? I mean, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? In this last section, let's look at why it's so tough to fix this and what a possible path forward might even look like.
And look, the roadblocks here are huge. First off, the trust between the 2 countries is just gone, completely shattered. Second, their legal systems are totally different. The Canadian justice system is slow, it's methodical, and it doesn't care about political pressure. Third, you've got politics at home. Both Trudeau and Modi have to look tough for their own voters. Neither can be seen as backing down. And finally, there's the evidence problem. Without that smoking gun out in public, how do you ever bridge the gap between Canada's secret intel and India's public denial? It's a massive challenge.
So, is there any hope? Well, some experts have laid out a kind of roadmap. It's not easy, but here's what it could look like. Step 1, everybody needs to cool it with the public shouting match and start talking privately. That's called quiet diplomacy. Step 2, share intelligence, but through the proper, secure channels, not leaking it to the press. Step 3, both sides need to agree, again, to respect the basic rules of international law and sovereignty. Step 4, find something, anything they can agree on, like trade or climate change, and start building from there. And then, the final and hardest step, actually start talking, seriously talking, about how to handle these diaspora issues in a way that respects everyone's rights. It's a long, tough road, for sure, but it's a path.
And so that leaves us with the big unanswered question. What we're seeing here is a major test for 2 big, powerful democracies that have always more or less been partners. So the question is, can they actually fix this? Can they rebuild the trust that has been completely destroyed? Or are we watching the relationship between India and Canada break apart for good? I guess only time will tell.
And there you have it. That's our deep dive into this incredibly complex diplomatic crisis. I really hope that helped make sense of all the different pieces of the puzzle. Now, if you want to go even deeper, we've got you covered. We've prepared detailed notes and a really useful mind map for a quick revision. Just head over to our website. The link is waiting for you in the description below. Thanks so much for tuning in.